All right, welcome everyone to this May edition of the Technical Update Briefing for Power Platform and Dynamics 365. We're happy to have you here with us today. As we get things started, we'll drop a few links in the chat for you. One of the links will be our blog, where the slide deck is available to download. A recording of the session will also be available on the blog in a few days. In addition to our blogs, you can also find us on Twitter at PFE Dynamics. In the chat, we'll also provide a link to a short survey. We would encourage you to fill that out so we can better understand our audience, and you can let us know how we're doing. Okay, so today we have two presenters providing some great content for you. I'm happy to have with us today Senior Customer Engineer Ryan Sandness. He'll be providing you with some news and updates on the Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations apps. Senior Customer Engineer Ryan Anderson is also with us, and he'll be covering Power Platform and the Dynamics 365 Customer Engagement apps. Madan and I will be answering your questions via chat during the session. That's all I have, so over to you, Ryan.
All right, thanks, Tom. So we'll jump into our content for today and start out as usual with our featured news. So first topic is Microsoft Build, and so this is going on right now. Was started on Tuesday, and today is the last day of Microsoft Build. So thank you all for joining us today. But the Microsoft Build is going on. Most of the sessions are available on demand. So even though you're here, you may not be really missing out on a whole lot that's live. A lot of the sessions are on demand. So make sure you're checking those out. There's some good key sessions listed in this slide on the Power Platform. So look at those. And yeah, there's tons of good content and, and good sessions going on in Microsoft Build right now. Other events we wanted to mention, the Business Applications launch event. This one happened back in April, but again, available on demand. This event was coincided with our Wave 1 release, the 2022 Wave 1 release. And so again, lots of good content there that is available to view on demand. So if you haven't watched that yet or didn't get a chance when we had the Wave 1 release, make sure you go back and take a look at that one too. And then finally, we wanted to call out the Power Platform community call that's happening on the third Wednesday of every month. There's a link there for the April 2022 call. I believe the may have happened this week, but you can check out the blog that gives all the information there. It's a great call. There's kind of it starts out usually with some of the latest news around the Power Platform, and then jumps into demos on certain features. So it can be pretty valuable. And again, that's available on demand too. The recordings are made available there. Okay, so those are some of the events and content that is available. We'll jump into our service update section, and first we'll cover off on the Power Platform and Dynamics 365 customer engagement apps. So as usual, we've talked about this before. Release Wave 1. The actual GA of that release was the first of April. The release Wave 1 covers features that are releasing between April and September of this year. So not everything releases right on April 1st. It can, depending on the content or depending on the feature, it can be released over the course of time throughout this year up until September. So there's lots of content, lots of resources available to talk about the release waves. You can take a look at those, what's actually available in those, the release schedule. Again, those are released over a course of time to different regions in the world. So typically, they happen on the weekends. Starting April 1st and released over the different weekends to the different regions. So the next release wave will be coming in October. That'll be 2022 release wave 2. So you can kind of keep an eye out for that. As usual, you can opt in on the early access on those things, and then general availability will be in October for that one. Okay, so a little more specific on some of the actual services within the Power Platform here. The first one is around Microsoft Dataverse. And so typically service updates are deployed to Dataverse on a weekly basis. And again, these are released regionally. And so you can take a look at what version that your specific environment is actually on. There is, if you follow this link, you can find the different versions that are available in each region, and some dates that they'll be available. So make sure you're kind of following along on that, or if you have questions on what update you actually have in your environment, you can look that way. These kind of updates, include lots of different things. Lots of time it's repairing functionality. Maybe not really the new stuff that comes in release waves, but a lot of other stuff in here. Some of the things that were in this latest one were some accessibility features. There was an issue with zooming in the customer service hub, so that was taken care of. The narrator screen reader didn't announce the rows and column counts for all the cells within a grid. That was taken care of. There was a iOS issue on the voiceover screen reader. And another narrator screen reader issue on the customer service hub with email activity. So those are just some of the examples of things that are released with these service updates. So again, you can take a look at the link and see which one is available in your region, and then take a look at your environment and see what you have. So separately from that Dataverse update, there's also updates that come for each one of the separate Dynamics 365 apps. And so depending on which app you're using, you'll have a different update. These can vary as far as the frequency of when the updates are coming. Like for sales, that's typically deployed every 2 weeks. You can use the link there and click to see what's available in your region. On the customer service side, if you're using that app, typically there's a service update information every Tuesday, and then so it's a little bit different for each one of these apps. So depending on which app you're using, you can drill in there and see which one is available in your area, and then also which one is what the different features that are available in those updates that have been deployed to your environment. Also, on the Power Platform side, there's service updates there as well. So on the Power Apps, in the Power Apps realm, things like unified interface, the actual Power Apps Studio, the Maker portal, all those kind of things include different updates. So you can look there and see what the latest updates are and what's included in each one of those. Power Automate's no different. You can check the link there and see your version and what's available in your region. Power Apps portals as well, and also Power BI. So different cadences on some of those is when updates are actually released, but all that information is available in those links as well. So make sure to check those out depending on what area you're using of the Power Platform. All right. There's also a really good article, if you haven't seen it, around important changes that are coming across the whole platform, basically deprecations and different services or functionality that may be being retired. So here, these are a few of the ones to make sure that you're aware of coming up. So we've had a couple this year already. In February, there were some deprecations. In April, we had the WS Trust shutting down. Also, some model-driven app controls deprecated and retired. So those are already complete. The next kind of major round is in the 1st of November. That is the OData version 2.0 service removal, and then also the deprecation and removal of the data export service. So if you're using either of those, make sure to take a look at the information that's available and start planning to move off of that. On the data export service side, we recommend that customers transition to the Azure Synapse link for Dataverse, and there's lots of good information out there about that, including a deprecation playbook. So make sure you take a look at all that. All right, on the on-premise side for Dynamics 365, there continue to be updates provided there on the version 9 and then the 9.1 versions. So there is a May release on both of those. I believe April was skipped, but typically it's kind of a monthly release here. And so make sure if you're using on-prem, follow along on those updates. Those updates are cumulative, and you can apply any of them, and it'll include the others up to that point. So if you're in the on-prem world, take a look at that May update there.
All right, let's switch over.
Yep, go ahead, Ryan.
Let's switch over and talk to the finance and operations side for a moment. So we have one big announcement in terms of service update availability. Previously, we had customers having up to 8 updates available per year with the requirement to take 2 updates per year. We recently modified that and took away 1 release with the goals of kind of giving people additional time to work through their service updates. So with that requirement, it gives customers a little bit more time to kind of update throughout the year and being a little bit more having some additional times over the holidays and having some additional time to kind of let everything flow through for the staff. So that's one big announcement there, and you can read more on the link here. Otherwise, talking about kind of our standard general service update availability, we have the chart here. We're currently at the bottom of the kind of the eye chart there on the right side there. So the 10.025 release is the April release. You'll see kind of the month nomenclature kind of added to help with these dates that are kind of at the end of a month typically now. So 10.026 is the most recent GA available update that you can take. And then 10.027 is right around the corner here for GA as well. So we can always be up to 3 versions behind. And as always, you'll want to keep on track of this. So keep up to date on the documentation and just be aware of where you are at in terms of getting your sandbox updated and prepare to take your next release. As far as deprecated features, we just have a few to talk about here. They're mostly around this the project operations area. So we have a feature for adjustment transactions that it turned out that it made more sense just to always use this function. So that will just kind of always be on by default. And then we have a couple other features. One that the use adjustment date as new project date that is going away, and then the header and lines view has a different view that will be used instead of this. So for anyone with project operations use, you'll want to go ahead and take a look at this and learn a little bit more details to see how this may be impacted you and how you want to transition to that new functionality.
All right, thanks, Ryan. So we'll jump into the product updates area. Start off with the Power Platform. All right, so the first one is around monitoring Dataflow refreshes in Dataverse. So previously, there wasn't a great way to monitor your Dataflow refresh history. There's actually been a couple new tables added to Dataverse that you can use to report over your Dataflow refresh history. And to use those tables, we suggest that you use the Dataverse connector in Power BI to set up your dashboard. If you're not familiar with Dataflow in general, Dataflow is a way to kind of automate the manipulation and import of data into Dataverse. And so with this update, you have a better way of actually tracking how often your data is being updated. And so you can get a better idea of when it's updated and how often and how much data and those kind of things. So there's those new tables are available and automatically populated. when you use Dataflow, and now you can report on that based on those tables right from within Power BI. Okay, on the Power App side, the first one we wanted to mention was the public preview of a new Power Apps app on Windows. So this is an announcement of the release of the Power Apps preview for Windows. It's available in the Microsoft Store and can be installed there as an app. There's good documentation that goes through on how to use that. The new Power App preview application, you'll be able to run apps in offline mode within that brand new application, and it's fully integrated within the Windows OS, and also supports native Dataverse connectors and native device capabilities, like using your camera control on your device or using it as a barcode scanner and some of those kind of things. So you can find all your Canvas and model-driven apps in one place once you have that installed. Like I mentioned before, you can make that offline capable. Use the device capabilities in your apps, and then also you can manage this with Intune if you're using that. So again, this is a preview, so not meant for really GA quite yet or production, but definitely take a look at that if you have a use case to use those apps on Windows. Another public preview is Wrap for Power Apps. The Wrap feature in Power Apps enables you to wrap your Canvas app as a custom branded Android or iOS app, and then you can distribute those through the different app stores depending on the platform. So this brings a no-code mobile app development environment. So you really don't have to have any mobile app experience in order to get those apps onto a mobile device. You can manage the mobile app builds. You can also, being that you can wrap the app, you have that seamless end-to-end branding, so you can use your own logo and colors. You can use multiple Canvas apps in one single mobile app, and then also again, you can enterprise governance can be provided with Microsoft Intune. So previously there was a Power App that you could mobile app, but it would basically you weren't able to wrap it in how you wanted to look and feel. So, and then it would also include all your apps from within the Power Platform. With this, you can take those individual apps and wrap them up and make them look how you'd like, and have individual apps for users to download. So again, preview feature, not meant for production, but take a look. There's actually an email address if you take a look at the article that you can email to report problems or feedback or that kind of thing. All right, the next one is the in-app notifications in model-driven apps, and this is the announcement here is that this is now generally available. So this has been in a public preview since almost a year, I believe. July of 2021 was when this was announced as a preview, but it's now GA. In-app notifications, they enable users to receive a notification while they're working within the web or on a mobile model-driven app. And so those notifications can be sent from Power Automate, in-app logic, web service calls. So it kind of allows flexibility of where they're actually triggered. The model-driven apps can be enabled with in-app notifications within the modern app designer. So you do have to enable those for the notifications. And there's kind of steps that go through there in the article on how to do that. So some cool functionality. This is actually used with some of the other out-of-the-box functionality that's available now within the Dynamics apps, but it's also available to use in a custom manner. So take a look at that. There's some new data sources available for the virtual connection provider. So previously, it was only the SQL virtual connection provider that was available. And now there's also Excel and SharePoint as well. So if you're using those virtual connections, virtual tables, you can now use Excel and SharePoint as well as SQL in that capacity. All right, the next one is the new Power Automate Pane in Power Apps. So this is used if you're actually inside the Power App pane or the Maker portal, making your building your Power App. There's also a Power Automate pane that's on over on the left side that you can use to create new flows. You can add existing flows right to your Power App right from that pane, so you don't have to jump around so much. Go back to the Power Automate portal to actually create a new one. You can do that all from one location now. So it should help streamline the process of adding Power Automate flows into your Power Apps. All right, and speaking of Power Automate, we have a couple of updates around that. This is a great one, I think. I've had customers have really good response to this. This basically is introducing a bulk resubmit or cancel for cloud flows. So previously, you could resubmit or cancel, but you had to do it one by one. Now you can do it in a bulk manner, which is much more user friendly and is great. This actually came from an idea that was originally posted on the Power Automate idea board in the community, and then was acted on by our product group to actually make that happen. So hopefully this saves some time and saves a lot of clicking when you have to resubmit or cancel cloud flows within Power Automate. And then also on the Power Automate side, just a record-breaking number of new independent publisher connectors in April. There's 36 new ones just in April, and so those connectors are available in Power Automate, Power Apps, and then also Azure Logic Apps. These independent publisher connectors are connectors that are developed and tested and published by connector developers that are independent from the backend service or API, but then there's a Microsoft certification team that performs validations and checks on all those different connectors to ensure that the connector is safe to use. So lots of different ones that came just in April for that. All right. One mention on the Power Automate desktop side. If you're using this, there is a April 2022 update. A few things that includes are it now includes some more built-in examples of how to use Power Automate desktop. Then you can take those and build on those. So that's kind of cool. You can see those examples to see better ways on how to use Power Automate desktop. There's also some new features such as the new action to hover the mouse over a UI element. Also supporting a physical keyboard interaction in the populate text field action, improved recorder performance. And then also you can now pick which cloud or region you're using when you're using the Power Automate desktop console. Okay, on to Power BI. All right, the first one is the announcing the action bar for interactive reports for Power BI within Microsoft Teams. So when you create a new Power BI tab in Microsoft Teams, you'll see an updated experience with this. After you pick an interactive report, you'll get the option to show action bar, which is selected by default in new tabs. When the action bar is enabled, end users will see all the options at the top of the report that they have access to in the Power BI service, which makes it easier to use reports without having to leave Microsoft Teams. So, for example, it's easier to export, share, chat, subscribe, or favorite that report. All those things you had to do before, you had to jump back into the Power Automate environment to do that. Now you can do that right from Teams if you're using Teams to view those reports. It also supports personal bookmarks, which help users to customize the view based on their unique needs. So that's also included in that action bar. Up next, there's a new page that's available for Power BI. That's Power BI known issues page. So the idea here is just keeping Power BI users more informed on the active issues. So this is updated often with the known issues. So before submitting a support request, it's a good idea to review this list to see if the issue is already known and being addressed. This page doesn't necessarily show outages or degradation in performance or notifications. For that, you can still go to support.powerbi.com, but all the active known issues are out there. It gives a published date and the status of those, so you can see what's a known issue and what may not be. There's a new data source and gateway manage experience within Power BI. And so we recently replaced the manage a gateway experience with a new interface, which makes it easier to manage your gateways and data sources. With that new experience, you also get the ability to manage and create the VNet gateway and use the recently released additional security roles. So if you see a new experience there, it's by design and hopefully can make that experience a little bit better for you. And I think lastly, on the Power BI side, coming soon, some changes to the Power BI service. So there was an announcement on some of those changes that'll be coming. Excuse me, these changes are slated to arrive in early June, so fairly soon here. We're at the end of May. So we continue to improve that experience, and with some of the feedback, and actually after conducting testing, we're sharing with this some of those changes based on feedback. So some navigation changes, changes to the home in page list improvements. There's style updates as far as colors, icons, fonts, all that good stuff. And so all that will be coming in June with those changes to the Power BI service. All right, Ryan, back over to you.
Thanks, Ryan. On the finance and operations side, we have one kind of general announcement for kind of all the different finance and operation apps. And that is we have kind of a convergence happening with moving some functionality from lifecycle services into the Power Platform Admin Center. So this is exciting that in kind of lieu of kind of unifying some experiences and putting everything you need in kind of one place, we've started this process of combining capabilities in the PPAC or the Admin Center. So today we have one scenario lit up. So if you go and sign up for a project operations trial, you'll have the ability to go ahead and fully provision that through the Power Platform Admin Center. So this is kind of the first step. Over the next kind of unknown amount of time, we'll go ahead and continue lighting up additional functionality and features in this new experience to kind of simplify and kind of give you your one-stop shop and kind of allow better opportunities to have simpler experiences when you're configuring both Dataverse and Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations and kind of everything Power Platform. On the finance side, we have a couple new features we're going to talk about today in regards to subscription billing. So subscription billing is newly available, and there is a lot to go through here. So I have just kind of a couple high-level slides where I'm going to call out a couple really cool things to give you an idea of what we're looking at. But the first item here, recurring contract billing. The idea behind this feature is it's really about giving that additional flexibility on subscription-based items where it's more complicated than just a simple like quantity or amount. So as part of this, you can set up a billing schedule group. In the screenshot, I have a couple examples. I have a drop down for pricing method, kind of being standard, flat tier. And then the usage option in this case is reading. So, reading a meter or whatever else to kind of say, based on your usage, this is what we're going to go ahead and bill you on. In the second example here, I have a consumption based. So again, kind of looking at a different option there with the item type of being usage. So really giving you a lot of options to say based on a contract or based on fixed price or whatever, however you want to set up your contract. We give you many more options now in how we can go ahead and do the bills. And additionally, we have that invoice separately option. So do you want an individual invoice for each kind of subset, or do you want to lump everything together and just kind of give one monthly, quarterly, whatever you determine invoice? For revenue allocations, this is another major chunk of the functionality. So this is the ability to go ahead and say that you're delivering multiple pieces of what the customer is purchasing. So we have options for both a price amount and a price percentage, where you can take a number of items and say, based on all these different things, this is how we're going to go ahead and say, this is how we're determining our revenue, and this is how we're determining our expenses that we can go ahead and use for internal tracking and accounting. So there's a lot there. Take a look at the documentation to go deeper on that. I'm sure we'll have a future tech talk on this area. So the last item here for subscription billing that I'm going to talk about today is the revenue and expense deferrals. So the first thing I'll call out here is that we have a new workspace specific to subscription billing. Once you do the accounting setup to go ahead and say that this is where my accounting for these deferral accounts is going to be placed, we have the ability then to give kind of real-time information and insight into all of the deferrals, both from the expense and revenue side, to say this is where we're at, to both meet regulatory requirements and as well to give you kind of that growth chart and idea of where maybe you want to add additional sales focus or cost savings measures to increase profitability. A big part of this is setting up a template. So you can go ahead and set up a template so that when you do a new subscription billing, it goes ahead and says this is the monthly, quarterly, 12 monthly, or whatever the schedule is, in order to go ahead and automatically create those line items and track them throughout the year. For supply chain management, we have quite a few things on the inventory side. So the inventory visibility add-in has been out for some time now. We're continuing to enhance the scenarios that are supported specifically with that add-in. So in this case, we previously did not support any customers using advanced warehouse management. With this latest update, we now have the ability to do these on-hand quantity queries specific to AWS. Likewise, available to promise, or ATP. So this functionality lets you go ahead and gives you that additional insight into lead time and when you can go ahead and promise quantity to a customer. And then the last item I'm going to be talking about today is the inventory visibility for inventory allocation. So for this feature, it enables kind of this idea of soft reservations, where you can go ahead and kind of allocate for a specific function. You may have specific customers that are higher revenue that you want to make sure that they have priority access to inventory for sales, for contractual purposes, or whatever else. So this way you can go ahead and use this inventory allocation to say this inventory is reserved for this customer group or whatever else, to make sure that you can meet those obligations, or that your business runs as profitable as possible. I wanted to talk just a second about human resources. So we have a lot coming down the pipe in the future here. So we had the human resources product, and we're going down a path now where we are going to go ahead and kind of converge human resources back into the core finance and operations apps. So I'm not going to go into detail on everything here today, but just keep in mind that if you are using HR today, or you have a need for HR, we have a lot of new functionality coming in. It's starting out in preview for the next few releases, but all of this will be lit up and enabled for you to go ahead and use in your sandbox to get an idea of what it is and how it works. And so we'll see a huge wave of new functionality coming in over the next few months for you to stand this up and take advantage of this for your organization. So we'll go ahead and go into a deeper dive into the specifics of some of these features in the future. And then for those customers using the standalone human resources app, there's communication going on and steps in order to go ahead and start the planning of migrating everything over to finance and operations. All right, Ryan, can you take it from here?
Yes, got it, Ryan. We really need to start using some nicknames or something, I think. But next section is Learning Corner. So let's jump into that. All right, first one is around the Power Apps portals. And there's a couple here that are really they're articles on our team blog. So if you take a look at that, you'll be able to see the kind of the list of articles there if you kind of go to the main page. But this one is specifically around Power BI embedded with RLS. So just as the Power Apps portals is a tool of choice to quickly extend your Dataverse deployment in the public informal website. Power BI is also a tool of choice to render your data-driven visualization. So you can now use Power BI embedded within those Power Apps portals. And so that article kind of takes you through that information and gives you a better idea on how to do that. So if you're using Power Apps portals, to definitely take a look at that to see how to embed those Power BI reports. The next one is on Power Apps portals as well, and with security and how to configure table permissions with connections. So authenticated portal users are technically Dataverse contacts, and their table permissions to view data will depend on their contact's relationship to view records that they are attempting to view. So what this article talks about is, what if your tables are using connections to relate the records to contacts instead of that direct relationship? And so this kind of goes through how to configure those table permissions when using connections in that instance. So if you're using connections, definitely take a look at that to see how to configure it. The next one is around the alphabet bar. So if you applied 2022 Wave 1 or had it applied to your environment, you may have noticed that in the grid controls, there was a new grid control that was introduced in Wave 1 and applied. And in that grid control, the alphabet bar, which is the letters down in the bottom of that grid control, were removed or disabled, I guess more accurately. And so this article goes through information on that, and also how to get the alphabet jump bar back if you want to add it back. Some of the new features in that new grid control are great, like the infinite scrolling and spacing and that kind of thing. But if you weren't expecting it and the alphabet bar is gone, there's a way to get it back. So definitely take a look at that article on how to do that. And then also just a few resources here for learning. There are multiple YouTube channels that are available. The Dynamics 365 channel, that first one, is a little more focused on the F&O side. We have a podcast where we post this discussion along with some other ones. And then there's also some other good YouTube channels. The Microsoft official Power Platform channel. There's another Dynamics 365 channel, and also our team, the Microsoft PFE Dynamics team, we have a channel as well where we, again, post this update briefing, but also some other topics. There's a few out there now around Power Apps portals specifically. So take a look at all those resources. A lot of good content there. And back to you, Ryan.
Thank you, Ryan. So on the finance and operation app side, we have just a couple things for recent blog posts. So first off, we have a using Azure Monitor with Dynamics 365 F&O on-premise. This is pretty cool if you haven't looked at any of like the log analytics or alerting stuff. So definitely anyone using on-premise should take a look at this. It's really cool to go ahead and see all of your being able to see performance data and event data in a really easy to use dashboard. And then anyone just kind of generally in IT kind of looking for solutions, it's pretty cool all around. And then on the finance and supply chain using Azure Data Factory, reporting is something that I have a lot of fun conversations with my customers around. It's a pretty important need for everyone to have kind of that personalized data. This is a really cool article that will take you through using Azure Data Factory to push some data through OData in Dynamics out to a reporting solution, which then you can go ahead and build reports on top of. So if you haven't taken a look at that, it's a really cool article and something that is pretty easy to do as well. Tech Talks continue to keep rolling in. We have a lot of these going on a regular basis. So upcoming ones in the near term, I think we're getting farther along into this performance testing one. So this is part 6, a lot going on there. And then we have some new ones starting up on project operations around sales and inception. So you can go ahead and register to attend those. Otherwise, you can definitely watch them recorded after the fact as well. In terms of the recorded calls, again, quite a few to look at here. Inventory costing. Again, on the reporting front, we have a couple on the Azure Data Lake. So we have a great team working on those, and I've been staying updated on some of that. That is really cool stuff going on there. And then Power Apps UX Design Tech Talk, and then electronic invoices and supply chain. So yeah, definitely take a look. With that, I think we're good to go ahead and wrap it up for today. I'll go ahead and transition to Madan.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Ryan and Ryan, for running through this presentation here. With that, we are done with the this month's technical update briefing. The links here you can see on the PDF version of the slide, or here you can click around if you are able to do that. Will allow you to download all the decks. The AKA MS Power Platform tab link also allows you to go back and take a look at some of our previous update briefings going back a couple of months. We also have a Twitter handle there, so you can post us if you have any questions. So if you have any additional questions on the topics that were covered just yet, if you already have an engagement with a dedicated support engineer, feel free to reach out to that person to answer, to ask any in-depth questions on some of the topics that we covered today. If not, you can reach out to your customer success account manager if you have a relationship through us through the unified contract. If neither are there, feel free to reach out to us through the community blogs, community.dynamics.com, and we'd be happy to answer. And also, as I mentioned earlier, as well as Tom, there is a small survey there at the top of the chat here. Please let us take a moment to fill it. It only takes a minute to fill up, only has 1 or 3 or 4 questions, and it allows us to serve you better and make better use of your time. Thank you so much for joining, and we'll see you next time around.